An exquisite work of art. It's the movie Winter Sleep. Let me tell you why I think this movie is great and how to get into this very long movie coming up next. Turkish director Nuri Bilge Ceylan. Sorry for my bad Turkish, but he is a great director, fabulous cinematography, and Winter Sleep shows off his wonderful eye as well as his ear, his sense of story, his literariness, his love of high art. I mean, there's so many great things about this movie, and Ceylan is in this movie as a kind of, I think, 21st century Bergman. This is one of the best literary adaptations I have ever seen. This is based on a Chekhov sort of semi-short story, although it's like 30 to 40 pages long. I should tell you first about the experience I've had watching this movie a couple of times. It is very long, 3 hours, almost 3 hours and 15 minutes. And basically it's scene after scene of conversation. It's a very slow movie at a largo tempo. Now, some of you will not like this movie just because of that, but I think most people, cinephiles, people who like literature, period, will really appreciate this movie's character study, and the tempo makes a lot of sense. One thing I love about this movie right off the bat, and will keep me watching it every several years, is the setting. Gorgeous setting, wonderful lighting. Every shot looks absolutely exquisite in this movie. I like the warm, cozy setting of the hotel and the house in the mountains and the mountainside rock. It is cave-like. The lighting is perfect. It's glowing. And then there's a wintertime atmosphere, obviously given the title. Later in the movie, the snow's going to fall. Earlier in the movie, it's a little bit warmer, but you really want to go visit here. I hate to say this, because the movie is not trying to be a tourist, advertisement. But you might want to go stay at this place, kind of like an Airbnb or a hotel. The movie is like a Chekhov story, so it's going to be rich, really rich, in fact, as rich as possible in character study, characterization, and the movement of characters over the course of the movie. It's a dialogic movie, lots of conversations and different scenes. The movie is very well acted as well, and since I don't pronounce Turkish, I'm not going to try to pronounce the actors' names here, but the main actor who plays Aiden is great. He's an older man, he's got some money, he's on top of a mountain, thus you have some symbolism here of a class divide, a man up in his hotel looking down on the people whose houses he owns. He has tenants down below, and he'll go amongst them in this movie. His sister stays at this hotel and house, also his wife, who is a little bit younger or much younger than him. This is a Turkish or Islamic movie perhaps, and it's talking about, one, the relationship. And there's a social aspect here between a husband and a wife, particularly a husband who is more, say, Western-oriented or Western bourgeois maybe, and with a younger wife. Also, this man and his sister, the relationships between a man and different females in his life. Economic aspect comes up here with the relationship between the owner and the tenants. That comes up through the entire movie, as well as a man who is moneyed, and then people, say charitable organizations, who want his money. Aiden is very interesting to me because I identify with him. He's a bit of a recluse, perhaps somewhat of an introvert. He likes his cave-like, cozy setting. One wonderful conversation early in the movie about him maybe needing a gravel road to go up to the hotel, but he doesn't want it. Why? Well, it looks more natural to have a mud path, but also that mud path makes it harder to get to the hotel, which might be of his preference to keep people away.
Bu çamurda tabii gelmez turist.
Herkes gelmesin zaten. Doğallığın değerini bilen gelsin.
And that is definitely a metaphor for what he is in his life, as a bit of a curmudgeon, a grumpy guy, someone who is a little bit nasty at times with his words. He's alienated himself somewhat, maybe a lot, from his sister, from his wife, and he and his sister have hard conversations. The philosophical conversations are quite interesting in this movie about what to do about evil people. They also have hard conversations about their relationships, each other's psychology, maybe a little bit about spirituality. And this movie definitely has that aspect to it of the psychological and the spiritual component of a man who is into art but doesn't really want other people in his life, perhaps, or sometimes acts that way. Aiden loves aesthetics. He's into beauty and order. He loves the look of the natural setting of his hotel and home, and this is what he prefers. Also, he's upset by the tenants who keep their house, the house he really owns, but the tenants occupy it. They keep it chaotic. He doesn't like that. And he's interested in history and art. He's writing columns for a local newspaper. He's interested in Turkish theater. And just look at his study. It is a gorgeous setting. Who wouldn't want to live here with books and theater objects all over the place? But this particular shot, which is halfway through the movie in one of the difficult conversations for the characters in the movie where the sister criticizes her brother here, is really interesting. Look at the character positioning. His back is turned to her, and they're far apart, symbolizing their relationship or his relationship with other people, the women in his life. He's interested in technology and writing for an abstract or unknown public, as with his newspaper column, so he's on his computer quite a lot in this movie, interested in writing for other people, and yet he's alienating his friends and family in his life to some extent. The masks on the wall of his study are really interesting. He used to be an actor, theater professional, and a lot of this movie is punting on acting. Will he act properly? Will he act morally and ethically? Is he a good actor in terms of ethics? Well, as a trained theater professional and a man interested in theater, as you can see by his study, he is able to adapt to different circumstances and put on different masks, let's say. So this movie, as it goes through each conversation, each scene, you see Aiden, and this is obviously a cross-cultural phenomenon, I think, is different in different settings. There is no set Aiden personality. There are different Aiden personalities, perhaps, as he interacts with his wife, on the one hand, his sister, with younger people, with the tenants, with people who are not of his class, with people who are of his class, and with the guests at his hotel. He's a different person in different settings, thus the masked man here. The movie is a little bit of a metaphor. Will we unveil the mask? That's a very common literary device or idea. Everything's a masquerade or a performance in life, and when do we see what's underneath the mask? That is one of Aiden's dilemmas. Ceylan, the director, uses sound in here exquisitely. I should say, composition-wise, his compositions are perfect. His editing is magnificent. Look at each cut. Each cut has meaning and depth. You know, these are just conversations. These look like easy scenes to shoot. But his ability to get the most out of all the dialogue, all the conversations, all the seemingly simple scenes, and then put all of the scenes together is incredible. Great job getting great acting here. But sound-wise, the Schubert Sonata punctuates this. It's only in a few minutes of the movie. Every time you hear it, though, I think you're hearing character growth, development, or change. And then there's a very strange sound that I'm not even sure the meaning of, but I'm going to point it out here and ask you to put it in the comments. The barking dogs. It's a sound repeated throughout the movie in certain scenarios outside this hotel house on the mountainside. And it's at the very end of the movie. You'll even hear the barking dogs extend. Even when the final shot ends, you'll still hear them when the screen goes to black. It's faint. So what does that signify? The barking dogs are barking at strangers they don't want coming to the door. Is that, again, Aiden's preference to be a recluse, to keep people away from himself? A the barking dogs warning people away. I don't know. There's a lot of possibilities to this, but there are a lot of symbols like this. Barking dogs, masks, the wild horse that's captured in this movie, the rabbit that's shot in the movie, and the broken window. We can go on and on and on, and each of these may have psychological aspects, economic aspects, social aspects. I think Ceylan is tying all of this together in a wonderful tapestry that gives us a rich depiction of these people in their particular time and place and the problems that they have as human beings. I think Ceylan's a classical humanist, though. Each of these people are worthwhile, meaningful. They have complex lives. They're messed up, and yet they're worthy of our attention and worthy to be studied. And we recognize ourselves in these characters. I see a lot of myself in Aiden, so that's part of the reason I like this movie. And I see a lot of my faults in him, too. I dare say a lot of people will see a different character in this movie and identify with one of them, whether it's the sister or the wife or other characters. And so because Ceylan is such a great humanist, I think maybe better than Bergman at describing and showing characters, partly because the movie's 3 hours long. You get so many darn scenes in this movie, but because he's so good at it, I think you warm up to it, even though this movie takes place in wintertime. There's so much more to say about this movie. I think books could be written. I think articles could be written. I think this movie deserves to be studied endlessly. Even though it's going to be hard to get into, I think it's well worthwhile for a lot of you who haven't seen it. So for all those reasons, I think this is one of the best movies I've seen released in the 21st century. It's probably in my top 30 to 40 movies from the 21st century so far, and this is the year 2021 right now. What do you think of Winter Sleep? Is this Ceylan's best movie, or what other of his movies should we watch? Let us know in the comments. Please subscribe to this channel for more great content. Thank you. Have a great day.